Because they sell. Okay, I have more to talk about. I have a whole video about that. Those Switch ports were super interesting at the beginning. I don't know if you guys have the same impression that I have, but the first time that I was super impressed seeing something running on Switch was with Doom 2016. The first time that they showed this footage of the game running on portable mode, it was fascinating. We never saw something to that level. We knew that portable gaming could be a little more impressive with PS Vita, for example, but even comparing to that, Switch was a huge jump. We were seeing games from the current generation of PS4 and Xbox One running on Switch. And it made the console look like it was a super advancement in technology. It was super different from the Wii U, for example, which felt more like a toy. Switch had this feeling of being like this hardware product for enthusiasts, like something that Microsoft or Apple would do, similar to something like that. So it was super cool. And after Doom, we saw a lot of other impressive ports like The Witcher 3, Overwatch, Mortal Kombat 11, the remakes of Tony Hawk, Crash, Spyro, Immortal Phoenix Rising, Dragon Quest XI, a lot of games from all different companies, all those third-party games appearing on the Switch finally. After a lot of those third parties abandoned the Wii U, now they were all returning for the Switch, for this little portable console, actually this hybrid console, because we could play the games on the TV and on portable mode, so it was super interesting to see those games finally being ported to the Switch. And people liked that, because Switch was a success, because Nintendo was providing a lot of first-party games that were like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, so yeah, the console was selling a lot because there were good games. But because people were buying the console, they wanted to see their favorite games on there, where they could play anywhere. So people started to ask for Switch ports. It became almost a meme. Every game released, people were like, where's the Switch version? And I completely understand that feeling. I want to have all my games on this platform that is so easy to use, so convenient for me, where I can play wherever I want. But then, here's the thing, right? Technology started to evolve a lot over the year, like it was expected. We are not on the PS4 and Xbox One generation anymore. Now we have the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X, so games are even more impressive graphically, and the gap between Switch and the current generation is bigger than ever. And not only that, but I think after a while we started to understand the Switch limitation. So when a game is announced nowadays, I think people are more worried about how it will run on Switch than happy because it was announced. And a lot of the time I understand that, because every Switch port is starting to look a little similar. We know that the resolution will be blurry, that the frame rate will probably not be the best. So I think, I don't know if you guys always have this impression, but I have this impression that Switch ports have this specific look. I already know how it will look on Switch, and it is not a very pleasant look. It makes me want to play the game in another platform. It makes it clear that we have a limitation that we can do nothing about. This is how far the console can actually reach. So more and more people are asking for a more powerful Switch, a more powerful console. And usually when a third-party game is announced and it is like this big game with a lot of stuff happening, graphically speaking, people prefer to play on another console if they have the opportunity. If they have the other console, they'll probably play. I'm one of those because I bought an Xbox Series S, and a lot of the time I see myself reserving some games more graphically impressive to the Series S. Because even though I could play portable on Switch, I prefer to play on my TV with a better graphical fidelity, so I can definitely understand why people say that. And on top of all that graphical advancement, we have a new boy that just appeared, a new character in this fight, which is the Steam Deck. And a lot of people are saying that the Steam Deck would be a direct competition for the Switch because it's a portable console and it is super powerful. It is so powerful that it is almost a portable PC. So you have all these games from Steam available, all this huge catalog, even emulation. So you have a lot of options with the Steam Deck. It is really something else when we think about a product that is being offered to the public. I don't think we saw something like that in a long time. It is impressive and a lot of people want to have one of those. And seeing how the Switch cannot handle a lot of those games portably anymore, the Steam Deck appears as probably one of the replacements from the Switch, right? So With all of that in mind, why Switch ports would still be relevant? Why people would still care for those games that are coming to the Switch like 3 or 4 years after releasing on another consoles? Those old games that are coming to Switch with a worse version, graphically speaking. Why people would even care? Okay, so I think we have a lot to talk here. It's interesting to discuss that because I think since the beginning we kinda saw some people with this feeling of why should I play something on Switch if it's not running as good as it should. But here's the thing, a lot of people have different perceptions of graphics in game. And this is something that I noticed when I bought my Series S. When I first bought the Series S, I was like, oh my god, I'm playing these games that look so fantastic, like Forza Horizon. How I will return to my Switch after playing all these 4K amazing games on my Series S? Well, because it is kind of a cliche, but graphics doesn't matter that much. A lot of the time on action games or with games that you are super focused on what you are actually doing, the graphics kinda doesn't matter to a certain point when you are playing. If everything is working the way that it should, your brain kinda stops to actually pay attention to all the little details that are in the game, you know? And this is okay, it's like usually how our brain works, or at least this is my experience, yours could be totally different, but most of the time, when I actually pay attention to the visuals, it's when those games have more of those small moments when I actually can appreciate the vistas, or when I'm watching like a Digital Foundry video, where they are analyzing every little bit of detail in the graphics, and I love to see those videos. But during my experience, it's a little bit different. So if the Switch has those games that, oh, they doesn't read 1080p, they are on 720p, it's not that big of a deal actually when you're playing the game, when you're actually inside that world. Of course, some games have a lot of issues that then it can really prejudice your experience. If it's running on a terrible resolution or the frame rate's terrible, it can definitely make your experience way worse. And those games I don't want to play on Switch, but usually those are bad ports also. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you are not a super perceptive person for graphics, usually that doesn't mean that this is the most important thing for every experience. But sometimes, of course, you want to have the best experience. You bought this super television and you want to play everything with the best resolution possible. And that's okay, because here's the thing, and that's the other point that I want to talk about. Switch ports are not the biggest thing on the planet. When companies make those ports, they are aware that the Switch will not be like their main goal most of the time. That's why some ports come a long way after the original release, you know? Like for example, Nintendo just announced Nier Automata. This game is a game from 2017. It's an old game, but maybe some people didn't have the opportunity to play that, and maybe some fans would love to play that finally on a portable console. And I don't think they expect to sell like 5 million or 6 million units. But maybe they will sell 1 million or close to that, and that is enough for a port, you know? So I think we don't need to see those Switch ports like the biggest thing on world. Those companies are not expecting to sell super goods. We know that at the end of the day with the Nintendo Switch, people will buy Nintendo exclusives, will buy like millions and millions on those Nintendo exclusives, and some people also want to buy some of those third-party games. Me, for example, I will play Nier Automata on my Switch. I never played the game, and I think it's a game that I want to play portable, and from what we saw, the port is looking great so far. So it's a game that I have this interest in to play on my Switch. And here's my other point, the convenience. Switch is super convenient. It's a console that I can play a game like in 1 or 2 clicks, and that I'm not stuck to the TV, that I can take it out and I can play it wherever I want, that I can even play on the tabletop. I can just take the Joy-Cons out and play wherever I want in any way I want. It's super easy to install, to use, and this is something that is not just for the, because a lot of, oh, it's easy, but that's just something that matters for the casual player. No, I think even people who play a lot of video games, it's nice to have this console where you can easily play any game that you want. For example, with Wii U, I have a Wii U that a lot of games on Wii U I love, like Xenoblade X for example, but it's super hard to revisit those games because Wii U is such a clunky console. I have to put a lot of cables to install it, and then it takes a lot to turn on, and then the Wii U gamepad has a charger that has to be, like, it doesn't connect on the console, so it's super hard to use it. And Switch is super easy. And I think this easy of use is something of the most important stuff on this generation right now. You see even PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, how they are trying to sell the SSD, which is basically a way to enter in the game faster, to make the loadings faster inside the game, to install faster. So it makes the whole experience more convenient, because we have to wait for those big installations in the past and these updates and all that stuff, and this kind of takes you out of the actual experience of the actual game. So convenience is really important, and that's why I think the Steam Deck is not a direct competition to the Switch, because the Steam Deck has a different goal. It is a product for those enthusiasts that really want to play something, that really want to see the game running on this portable console, they want to see it running really well, like a PC portable. The Steam Deck is not like a hybrid like the Switch. You can connect to the TV, but it's not that simple. It doesn't come with a dock, it doesn't come with those Joy-Cons that you can just detach and play it on the TV easily. So it is a different experience that they are trying to sell. It is for people that really want to see those big games. And let's not forget, the Steam Deck is more expensive than Switch. So it is not even selling. You'll probably in the future it will sell in normal stores and all of that, but right now it's very difficult to get your hands on your Steam Deck. I love the idea of the Steam Deck, I'm happy that it exists, but I don't think it even comes close to a competition to the Switch. They are different ideas. Historically in the past we saw that, and with Nintendo Portables actually, we saw that graphics never won when we talked about sales. We saw the DS, the Game Boy, the 3DS all selling super well, even though they had competition with better graphics. And I think Switch is in a similar position right now. The people that will actually bother to buy a Steam Deck, to go to buy this new piece of hardware that is super impressive, are people who are enthusiasts, who want to make those modifications, who want to download all these games from Steam from the past, who want to emulate some cool games. And I think it's wonderful for those things. But if you want to just play a game easily, with convenience, that you can just install the game, go to the store, download it and immediately play it, I think the Switch still is the best option. And that doesn't mean that Nintendo shouldn't release a new revision of the Switch in the future. I want to see a Switch Pro, a Super Switch, a Switch 2, whatever. I want to see a Switch with a better graphics, and I think that's inevitable. Nintendo will eventually release that. But I don't think at the moment they are in a desperate position to that. Even though a lot of people are saying that the Switch graphics they need to be better, I don't think that's the general perception for the huge install base that Nintendo has at the moment. People are still buying Switch a lot, Switch is still selling a lot, and the games are still selling a lot, so it's not like Nintendo is desperate that they need to release a new Switch Pro or something like that. They will do that eventually, but I think they are waiting for two things. First, they need to wait for Switch sales to start to decline a little bit more, to become something a little more noticeable, where they need to act to make the decline stop. And the second thing is the price. I think Nintendo is waiting for a way that they can actually develop something to sell that has a reasonable price. When we look at the Switch OLED, it's a little more expensive than the normal model and it doesn't change anything in the hardware. So I think it's a little difficult for Nintendo right now to find a way to maintain their profits and release a new, more powerful Switch with a reasonable price. I think they are struggling with that at the moment. I think Nintendo will eventually release, and maybe those ports that we are seeing right now will receive some updates to run better on the Switch Pro, on the hypothetically Switch Pro. But I don't know when that will happen. I think Nintendo is planning, but they are waiting for the right moment to do that. Until then, we'll be receiving those ports like No Man's Sky, like Nier Automata, like Sonic Frontiers, which, yeah, they do not run as good as other consoles, but for a lot of people they are good enough, and they are not this big thing that has to sell millions and millions, but they are good enough for Switch owners who are very aware of the potential that the console can achieve. Now I'm curious to read the comments and know what you guys are thinking about this. Do you guys still buy Switch ports, or do you not care anymore? You play them on other consoles? Which is your approach for this right now? What are you thinking about this? I'll be happy to read the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, bye!